This is the Classic Auto Mall Show. Broadcast from the studios inside the Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Just 1 hour west of Philadelphia at Pennsylvania Turnpike exit 298. Featuring nearly 1,000 classic, vintage, and barn-find vehicles for sale under one climate-controlled roof. Now, here's your host, Classic Auto Mall president and the man with all the toys, Stuart Howden.
And here we are. Welcome show number 216. For those of us keeping score at home. It's hard to believe. We were just talking about that a few minutes ago about, it's hard. I had to think twice about how many we'd done.
You did, yeah. I was too. I'm like, I'm losing track. They're coming so fast. And we've had some great guests all the time.
Absolutely.
And it just rolls along. They run one right into the other.
They absolutely do. And we got another great guest today who we'll get to just a second. But first and foremost, how many cars in inventory? JR, since you're the only one here, since Steve is lollygagging on the left coast, you'll have to be the only one to get to guess today. So
all right, but I'm going to guess for Steve today. My guess is 914.
Okay.
And Steve's guess is 706.
Well, he won without going over. 904.
Oh, that doggone Steve.
He's good even at a distance, right? Anyway, let's get to our guest. A wonderful fellow that we just met here recently at the Radnor Hunt Concours, Mr. Drake Darrin. Drake, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're doing great this morning. As always, it's a beautiful sunny day, and wherever part of the world we are and wherever you are, you're in Connecticut, right?
Correct. Exactly. In Greenwich, Connecticut.
I love Greenwich. I started going to the Greenwich Concours later than most. I didn't start going until about 8 or 10 years ago, but what a wonderful event there and a great setting.
Yeah, beautiful. Right out on the water. That was started roughly 28 years ago, give or take. Remember, they had 80 cars, and I think I had 8 in them on that first show.
So you were their ringer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You were probably their first phone call because they knew you had a collection of cars. And for those of you who don't know, you are the great nephew of Dutch Darrin, who, for those of you who don't know, is one of the most prolific designers of American and not just American cars. He had his stint over in Europe and other places, and amazing designer, amazing designs. Things that people might be most familiar with are obviously the Packard Darrins and the Kaiser Darrin, which was the fiberglass, beat the Corvette to the market kind of car, didn't it?
Correct. It did. It did.
And it had the pocket doors, which everybody thinks are so cool, but were probably a nightmare if you were a service manager at the Kaiser Darrin dealership.
Yes, it was a challenging feat to get those sliding doors to go into the fenders.
Right.
And I have to say, I think it was one of the many reasons at the end that I think the car did not surpass what Uncle Dutch wanted.
Sure.
In their vision.
Well, let's face it. I mean, the fiberglass bodied Corvette, which came out in '53, and the first year beat him to market a little bit, but it almost got canceled. They were almost going to shelve the Corvette because it wasn't performing like they hoped it would, and I'm sure the fiberglass body threw them a little bit off when they're used to dealing with steel.
Mm-hmm.
I read varying degrees of how many they made. That there was 435 seems to be the one that everybody sticks to. Does that sound right?
Correct. That's the number that I see also. But there are other stories that we'll get into the chronological, I guess,
sure,
of the Kaiser. That I can touch on in a little bit, but if you want, I could start right from the beginning of how Dutch got involved with the automobiles and his history.
Absolutely. He was he had a very keen eye for what people thought was elegant, and even more elegant than just a Packard was elegant in its own right. Then he took it and made it even prettier.
Right. And then they posthumous, they rewarded him with the Hall of Fame in Detroit in 2010.
Wow,
which was a nice honor.
What year did he pass?
He passed in the 80s.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so it was some time. But I remember him when he was at our house in New Jersey with family there, and I saw him out in California. I think there's even a picture of he and I together.
Yeah, wonderful picture.
Yeah, exactly. But so he Dutch he started out in New York City, working for Westinghouse, and at that point he was approached by John Willys, eventually Willys Jeep, and they wanted him to build an electric gear shift, which he ended up doing with 2 buttons on the steering wheel.
Right.
And again, we're talking in the right around 19, somewhere 19, 19, somewhere in that area.
Right.
So they did not go with that shifting of gear buttons, but it was something that he had on his resume, and he ended up going. They got called off to World War I, and he had to go to Europe, where he was over there for 2 years in France, and that was I think the start of his love of being in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So boom, World War I was over. He came back in 1920 back to the States, where he actually started up one of the first scheduled airline carriers using Surplus Curtiss Airlines.
Wow, how interesting.
And these planes offered passenger service and mail service from Atlantic City, Nassau, Palm Beach, Miami, and Key West. So that actually was a very successful venture for him. He then he was working, came back up to New York to work with in the Willys plant, but he was doing coach work with some of their cars.
Right.
And at that point, he met a fellow Tom Hibbard,
Right.
who was working at LeBaron at that time, and Hibbard was very impressed with Dutch and for his capability in designing, etc. And soon they said, "Look, we're going to head over to Paris, where we are going to look for a Minerva distributorship." And
That's oddball, but yes.
Yeah, it is. And but it's funny, in my collection I've got these beautiful pastel color boards
Right.
of Minerva and other automobiles that Dutch had made for his showrooms, out of his showrooms in Paris during the 20s.
Right.
And I ended up finding these obscure spot and bought them, about 14 of them, and they're in my plaques and beautiful prints in my collection here. But
Fantastic.
yeah, so they started designing for the U.S. tourists coming over to Paris, who would buy these Minervas and use them in Europe, and then ship them back, and they would be cheaper than if they
Sure.
bought them out of the New York distributor.
Not much different than people buying Porsches and Mercedes and doing the same thing in later years.
Exactly. We've all done that, and we remember, back 30, 40 years ago, you could buy a Porsche and get it on European spec delivery,
Yeah.
and you would save yourself 15, 20%.
And get a trip to Europe. Yeah.
So when they did this work for Minerva, soon they started to catch the eye of other clients, and lo and behold, they started working with Daimler-Benz, with Renault, with Citroën, and at this big show in Paris, they were he was given a big award as being one of the top designers of these limousines for the likes of King Alfonso of Spain and Belgium, and the clients began coming in.
Sure. And a lot of people don't realize that in the 20s, a lot of Americans lived in Paris. So it wasn't unusual for him to be there and to live there, because I think I read somewhere at the time in the early 20s, there might have been 25 or 30,000 Americans living in Paris, which seems to be a lot at that time in space.
Right. You're exactly correct that it was an influx of money.
Right.
And, the one thing I want to say about Dutch was throughout his history, he was scrappy, he was intelligent, he knew how to market.
Right.
And that's really what made him what he was. So, for example, at these Grand Palais in Paris, they would have all of the top lines. And when he would see some potential buyer over at Rolls-Royce or whichever, he would spark up a conversation with them, have them come over and look at the Minerva or their cars that they had the Dutch was marketing, and bingo, he would get his sales that way.
Sure. And you had to be a pretty good salesman back then, because Rolls-Royce and some of the other marks were a little maybe more well-known, maybe not back then, than Minerva and some of the others. So you really had to understand the product and understand how to sell these wealthy people who want to be catered to and want every little feature they can possibly get on a car.
Correct. So in let's see, in 29, he developed a way of making extremely thin, light aluminum panels, and it was called Stinlity or Alpax, one of the two of these names. And this technique he ended up using on his custom automobiles.
Right.
For example, he did one of his top cars is a Duesenberg done for Randolph Hearst.
Right.
And again, this he had this structure built in, which gave it more lightweight and easier to build.
And I imagine where those had to be hand formed back then, right?
Exactly. I don't think they didn't have the presses at the time.
I loved one of the things that somebody had said about him, that he had the ability to, had to like predict what people would think about what he did. How will I look if I do this or that? What must I do now so the verdict of history will be favorable to me? He was thinking about the future, even at the time when he was in the midst of building these cars and doing all this. He was thinking how his legacy would be 20, 30, 50 years from then.
His design over time, it really stayed just very, very how do I say it? It was a voluptuous curve,
right?
Nothing too ornate, not a lot of big badges, etc.
Right. And his cars were elegant in a way that you may not even be able to describe at the time, but you just knew it was different when you saw it. Especially the Packard Darrins. I mean, those things were just as elegant as they came. With, like you said, they were understated. They weren't just too over the top and ornate and garish, maybe.
Right. So you had obviously a World War I right in this at this time frame, and he ended up Hibbert and Darrin. They split up, and in 1932 he joined up with a Argentinian Parisian banker by the name of Fernandez.
Right.
And I think you've seen at auctions, you've seen Fernandez and Darrin automobiles. They were from 1932 to 37. Again, coach work on chassis of Bentley, Bugatti, Delage, Delahaye, Duesenbergs, Hispana Hisuezo, and these are a lot of cars you see coming through at auction.
Right.
They made roughly 150 cars at this time, and he set up a showroom right smack on the Champs-Élysées, and he put that showroom. And I've actually walked by the address. It's very close to the center there of that crazy loop of the Champs-Élysées. But he did this because he wanted the clients who were right nearby at the Hotel Ritz, the Maurice, etc., to be close to this showroom. Again, another sales thing that marketing that he pulled off.
I love that because, you had to be pretty creative back then. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have lots of avenues to market to people. People may not have ever even heard of you, and yet you're inviting them into the showroom and obviously trying to sell them a car.
Exactly. So again, I have these names, but again, one of his top automobiles was a Rolls Royce for Marlene Dietrich.
Right.
And I think that number back in that time, Stuart, was $24,000.
Wow!
For that order,
when most cars were probably $400 or $500 at that time.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
It's interesting that a lot of people may not realize, but during the coach building era, the manufacturers, Bugatti, Rolls Royce, all those guys built the frame and the chassis and the engine and the suspension and all that, and then somebody else built the body for them, and that's why there's all such different looks to all these cars from that era.
Right. He had another built in '33 for Greta Garbo, which was this gorgeous Duesenberg, torpedo-shaped running boards, mahogany, beautiful chrome work, and in the trunk was the Louis Vuitton luggage, of course. But just really some of these are just so grandeur, and you see them at some of these concours. Rarely do you see them, but they do come in with big presents.
Well, a lot of them are one-off, or they're darn close to one-off. Even if they're the same kind of style, they still have maybe little nuances and different things that you wouldn't see necessarily normally. I mean, you think about the amount of money back then. I mean, a ridiculous amount of money. And of course, the Depression was right then and there, 1929. Of course, I always say that when there was 25% unemployment, which was awful, there was 75% employment. There were still people that had money during those times. It was just a very shaky time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's see, moving on in around, let's see, in 1937, the economy had switched a bit, and it was time to head back to the States. And he ended up meeting what brought him to Hollywood is that he met some Hollywood producers in Paris, and they said you should come over and set up shop. And the name of his shop, obviously in Paris, was Darrin of Paris. So everyone from Hollywood was struck by this charismatic fella who could speak French.
Right.
Little did they know he was born in Cranwell, New Jersey, which is great.
With his little French accent, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, when in Rome, right?
Yep.
That's great.
So he sets up this beautiful showroom on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, and you and I were talking about the not really having the full money to set up a full set of lights inside,
and
or what was the
plate glass windows, I think it was, and the lights, and actually just built like a wooden frame thing that just separated the offices, I guess, and from the front of the building, and then they just put a car out there right in the open. And of course, apparently on the Sunset Strip, you put the sexy car out there. People are stopping, screeching brakes, backing up, getting out of their car. It was quite the spectacle, and what a brilliant marketing thing he did.
I mean, and again, so he immediately went right towards the Hollywood crowd, and the stories I hear are that. He was very, very close as a friend with Errol Flynn.
Right.
And you can't even imagine, I think, what that means as the reputation of Errol Flynn, I think we're all aware of, as a real bon vivant in Hollywood. And here is Dutch side by side selling the cars that he was doing coach work for. And again, one of these stories that recently at a concours I was judging with Wayne Carini, and he said to me, he said his favorite Dutch story was that Dutch would go to the top restaurants in Hollywood, and he would pay the parking attendants to park his cars right straight out front of the restaurant. And when these wealthy people came out, they would be, boom, awestruck by this car.
Yeah, what brilliant marketing. I mean, you've got to make do with what you got. And to put an ad out in the New York Times was probably cost prohibitive, but to park a car in front of there was, relatively inexpensive. A $10 bill probably went a long way.
Really,
but
I can't imagine what life was back like that for him at that time,
or anybody for that matter. I mean, it was such I guess you romanticize about the old days. You look back and you think, oh, wouldn't it have been wonderful to have lived back then? Well, there was quite a few limitations, I'm certain too, but it was certainly elegant to see people go out to dinner and actually get dressed up.
Right. It was a whole incredible era. So right at this time is when he got the connection to work on a couple of Packards. And so this was in the late 30s, 1937, I think was when he first designed a Packard and coach built for the actor Dick Powell.
Right.
And as soon as he had these 15 and they went out to the likes of the Errol Flynn's, Clark Gable, and Rosalind Russell, it just took off. And Packard then said to him, we would like for you to design for us. So I have these beautiful sales posters from the Packard showrooms where you have the opportunity to buy this Packard or a quote Darrin Packard.
Right.
And so between 40 and 42, I think he sold about 150 of these Packards through that channel.
Wow. How great is that? Because that's a lot of confidence when Packard says, "Hey, come in side by side, and we're gonna do this together." And people can have the option to upscale. Kind of like I guess Maybach and Mercedes-Benz, or any of Lexus and Toyota, or any of these modern companies that kind of do that, where it's got a specialty type feel to it and a more exclusivity.
You're exactly correct, Stuart. In that, what goes around, it comes around. Here is a coach builder back then, and for me to try to describe to people what coach building is in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, I always say, look, you have to go to an auction and see the catalogs where it states Rolls-Royce by one of the 150 different coach builders in this era. So to say that, yes, this is how Maybach is doing it right now, is a very good comparison.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting that and the Darrins of the late 30s and 40s, the Packard Darrins, I mean, are coveted cars that are. There's just something different about them when you see them, even in this day and age. Even when the jaded of us who have seen everything, we think when we see a Packard Darrin versus just a regular Packard, you can tell the difference immediately. You might not know why you can tell the difference because it's not garish, like you said, but you know it's different and cooler.
Right. One of the things that those Packards are known for is the dip doors.
Right.
So the doors are cut back as they slope towards the rear of the car, and he experimented with that dip door on other models too. I have that picture that I showed you of a Kaiser Darrin,
right?
That had originally, he was thinking of dip doors there, but I think he subsequently just went straight ahead. So these Packards were built out in two different locations, and people don't sometimes get the understanding that those first few cars, the 15 or so, were done at the showroom at Sunset Boulevard, but the others in 1940, 41, 42 were done in plants, Packard plants in Connersville, Indiana, and also in Scoville, Ohio.
Right.
So
do you think that was tough for him to let that go, or was he okay with that? I mean,
I think listen, if he was getting funds, commissions on it, which a normal Packard was somewhere around 35 to $4,000, I want to say, and these Darrins might be around $5,000, $2,000 more. I don't think that was really an issue at the time. So in 1942, obviously preparing for war, the government said we're going to take over those Packard plants, and they produced Jeeps there. So that was the end of that period there.
Sure. And you own a few Darrins, right? You've got.
Excuse me.
You own a few Darrins, right?
I've got. I have one now, and I had another that was at my a brother of mine had it in California.
Right.
He ended up selling that to a gentleman who is got probably the largest collection of Darrin Packards for sure. Excuse me, Darrins. And that's Ralph Morano, who's out of Garwood, New Jersey. And he's got Stuart, and I believe you were there also.
Yeah, it was spectacular. I mean, it's the most elegant collection of cars I think I've ever seen in one sitting. It was just, and his passion for Packards is second to none.
He's just the nicest guy too. He's really he always comes over, and I always see him when we get together. And he's got just such. If he's not winning Best in Show, I'm a bit surprised with that collection.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everywhere, just about everything he touches is perfect. He painted one, and I can't remember which car it is, so I won't embarrass myself by saying the wrong one. But he actually painted one of his Packards in UPS brown, and he saw the UPS truck pull in one day and said, that would work, and nobody else would see that. And he saw that and put it on a car, and it's spectacular. And it's the most oddball thing ever.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I had not known that story. And I have a UPS colored Packard.
Well, there you go.
I called it's like a tobacco brown, but
you probably had another name for it, or
yeah, exactly.
And you also own one of my favorite cars, in the most beautiful Jaguar, the C-Type, is in your collection as well too. My goodness, what a car!
And that car, since I was born, that car. Was owned by my father, bought a 1952 C-Type. He bought it in 1956, so the third owner. And that was one of the first two C-Types, that's serial number 009, that was shipped over to compete after winning. The C-Types were winning Le Mans in 1951 and 53. And so they sent these two cars over to compete, 009 and 007, in the United States. So this Jag went up and competed right away up to Watkins Glen and to Elkhart Lake, where it won the race there with John Fitch, famous driver.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, the car went on for another owner who had a great history. And then my dad bought it in 56 and raced it through 1960, raced it through Nassau Speed Week and a number of other tracks up and down East Coast. I then took the car over in the 80s, had it fully restored, and I then began a campaign of VSCCA, vintage car racing, etc., through many tracks on the East Coast, and also out west at Laguna Seca was a beautiful event that I'll never forget. And then since then, it's been on the show circuit because the car it's just too beautiful to unfortunately keep it out on the track.
Yeah. And it's they're not getting any cheaper to fix either.
There you go. So between Amelia Island and Watkins Glen events, other concours shows throughout. We just was up there, had it at Radnor not long ago, and Lime Rock. but I really do enjoy. I really do enjoy bringing that car around.
Well, it's one of those, when people that aren't even into cars, when they see that car, it is so striking looking. It's just got such a beautiful, elegant, streamlined look to it that it stops you in your tracks. I don't care what it's parked next to. It can be parked next to the newest, greatest, hyper, super, whatever car there is, and I bet more people would gravitate to it than the supercar.
Yeah, people will say I've never seen one.
Right, and don't even realize it's a Jaguar until they really, until you tell them.
Exactly. So it's just such a thrill to think about my dad and all the history of it, and I've got a incredible history of this car from every single event it's ever been to.
That's so important.
Yeah, and I really do cherish the time I have with it. My wife, we even did the Radnor. We did a rally for her first rally in it a month ago, and so that was interesting. First and maybe last rally for her, but I'm not so sure. It was a little warm in that race car.
You finally talked her into it, and she said, well, this isn't as fun as you sold it to be, right?
Yeah.
Well, Drake, we really appreciate you being on the show, and we have one last question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, what is your daily driver?
Oh, my daily driver is... It's crazy because I'm a bigger guy with big shoulders.
Right.
So for me to fit into something like an M5 is a little tight. So I've got the M550, which is a real little screamer.
Oh, I bet. And enough room to fit in, right?
Exactly.
Well, we could do this all day, Drake. I really appreciate you being on the show. So glad we got to meet at Radnor this past month, and we'll certainly see you somewhere else down the road. I'm sure of that.
Got it. Well, Stuart, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Drake Darrin, everybody. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with the Classic Auto Mall Show.
Whether you want to buy or sell a classic, collectible, or special interest vehicle, you need to visit the Classic Auto Mall website for more information. If you're looking to buy, you can easily search our inventory of more than 1,000 vehicles on the web at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall Show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania.
And we're rocking.
We're rocking today. It's a beautiful sunny day. We had a great guest on, Drake Darrin.
Yeah.
Great nephew of Dutch Darrin, Howard Dutch Darrin, which was... Wow, some story. There were so many stories. I mean, we could have gone 2 hours. Easily.
And I've seen the Darrin car before, but I never really knew that much about it. It was great to hear that and about the Jaguar and all those various other things.
Absolutely. So, where do we sell cars this past week? You
Where?
might ask. How about Garland, Texas? How about Wellsville, Pennsylvania? St. Paul, Minnesota? Thurmont, Maryland? Punta Gorda, Florida? Weatherford, Texas? Mamarole, France?
Wow.
Yeah. Rocky Mount, Virginia. That's two parallels right there. Chesterbrook, Pennsylvania. Matthews, North Carolina. Seville, Spain.
Well.
Yeah. Leesport, Pennsylvania. Hayes, Virginia. Burr Ridge, Illinois. Dallas, Pennsylvania. Columbus, Ohio. Petersburg, West Virginia. New Braunfels, Texas. South Berwick, Maine. Youngsville, North Carolina. Monticello, Florida. And Ocean View, Delaware. So.
Did you sell a Cadillac Seville to Seville, Spain?
We wish we had it, but we didn't. But we did sell a Cadillac Seville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so how cool is that?
Yeah.
So, we were talking about our YouTube channel when we were off the air and just how many subscribers we're getting.
Where are we now?
106,564. Yeah, subscribers. 1 year ago today, we had 5,024.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 1,544 videos up, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And almost 3.8, probably 3.8 million now views of our channels. Now, so we're not NBC Nightly News, but we're
and the audio podcast is going almost exponentially now.
It absolutely is. And it's funny, we were talking about now Netflix is starting to run podcasts. And I saw that. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. They're a visual thing, so they're running just audio? No. Video podcast. Yes. Which is the identity I think we've been looking for.
I think so.
We call it a show, but we call it a podcast, but we call it a... what is it? Mm-hmm. And it's a video podcast. Yep. And I think when you say that to people, I think people will go, ding, 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 I understand what it is. If you say show, they go, well, I don't know, is it, monkeys jumping around in a barrel or, something, we don't know what it is. So.
Well, and you're sitting around late at night and you want to watch something about cars, maybe you watch one of the auctions, Barrett-Jackson
sure.
or the Mecum, and then all of a sudden you go, hey, I'm going to watch this classic auto mall. What's that all about?
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for our identity, Netflix.
Yeah.
And now come calling. We'd like to hear from you. So call us and tell us that you want to give us a lot of money to be on your network. So I watch Netflix from time to time.
Podcast at classicautomall.com. The easiest, just write to us. And any of our listeners or viewers can do that as well. Questions, comments, gripes, whatever.
Exactly. So new arrivals this week, the 1936 Dodge pickup, satin black over red. This is chopped and channeled. This thing is so cool looking. It's got the 270 cubic inch Red Ram Hemi V8. Turbo Hydromatic 350 automatic tranny, and with a 4.8-inch axle on it. And it was in that magazine Custom Classic Truck. And just a wonderful, wonderful car that's got such a cool, unique look and identity from the 30s that you just immediately gravitate towards it. It's a fantastic truck. Also, the 1956 Nash Metropolitan Series 3 convertible, sky blue and snowberry white over black and white, 59,570 actual miles, 1,197 cc inline 4 with a 3-speed manual transmission. And it's very eclectic, this little car. You see them, and a lot of people see them and don't really know what they are or much about them, but they're very desirable. They're affordable, and you certainly won't go unnoticed at the local car show. You pull up in one, because there's really nothing else like it that you see out there. So, other new arrival, the 1967 Jaguar XKE Series 1 Roadster, Warwick gray over navy blue. Very nicely restored car. I mean, these are just beautiful cars.
Yeah.
They're just so elegant. Very desirable. It's got the 4.2-liter double overhead cam inline 6-cylinder, 4-speed manual transmission. It's got that unmistakable Jaguar styling. You just you see it and you know exactly what it is the minute you see it. Unlike the Jaguar C-Type that we were talking about, where people see it and didn't really know what it was because they weren't as iconic, they weren't as prevalent in the United States.
Right.
So how about this one is a great car, the 1937 Cadillac Series 60 Sport Coupe. Sudan blue over saddle, stunning resto mod build. It's got the big 454 cubic inch V8, daddy, for 9-inch heat and air. This is the coolest looking car you'll ever see, and it's got all the modern conveniences and then the modern power. Relatively speaking, modern. I don't remember what the last year for a 454 from General Motors would have been, but probably 1974 or 5 in a truck or something would have been the last. I think the Corvette in 75 you could get a 454 in it, and that was probably about the last year for that.
So modern conveniences like?
Oh, like, power brakes and heat and air.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
And a modern transmission, and
a
hopefully little more reliable when you're heading down the highway or cruising around the neighborhood or whatever you happen to be doing.
Okay.
So, the 1964 next in line, the 1964 Chevrolet Impala SS. Tell you what, these 1964s are really coming on strong as of late. They really seem to be more and more popular than they've ever been, and they've always been a popular car. But they just seem to be getting more and more activity. This one's maroon metallic over black, 38,000 actual miles. And I had somebody ask me the other day about original miles, and I don't buy any of those cars have original miles like that. And, how can you say that they do? Well, we can only say that they do if we have bulletproof documentation that they do have low miles. Their title has to be actual miles and it has to be within the range. We have to run the VIN check on it to make sure that it shows that there wasn't any odometer setback or anything like that. If there's receipts and documentation and paperwork, then we look at all that. So we don't just willy-nilly say, oh, it shows 30,000 miles on the odometer. It must be your actual miles.
Yeah, you can't take that for gospel.
No, it could have turned over 10 times.
Right. But usually when a car is sold, there's always title mileage verification.
Exactly.
And if not, then it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, you just don't know, and you have to say true mileage unknown.
Right.
And because a lot of times back in the days, especially in Pennsylvania, they would take a car that was 10 years and older and mark it exempt. Because mileage at 10 years and older has no legal bearing.
Well, it only had 5-digit odometers, too, for how many decades.
Exactly. So check that Impala out when you get a chance on our website, classicautomall.com. And last but not least, the 1964 Dodge Dart 270 two-door hardtop, medium blue over blue, restored and updated, 225 cubic inch slant 6. So it's a goer. Upgraded A904 automatic, upgraded suspension, and another one with front disc brakes. So that's some of our new arrivals this week.
That's a compact car that's probably the size of most what they call full-size cars these days.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, it's funny when you rent a car and they say full-size and you look at it and you go...
Hyundai Sonata?
Yeah, that doesn't look very full-size. So we were going to, this week, and due to no fault of his, but a fault of mine, we were going to have Scott Pruitt on and talk about his 2023 Toyota GR Corolla Morizo edition that we have for sale that's actually located on the other coast. It's on the West Coast. At his place in Central California, but I forgot to call him.
Oh no!
and I sat down this morning and I hated to just call him at the last minute. And I sat down this morning at the desk here to kind of prep for the show, and then I went, "Oh man!"
Yeah, on a day when Steve's not here, he could have
been a perfect
day.
Yeah. So,
but what would it have been? Been like 5 a.m. there to call him? I don't know. Even though he's a grape farmer, I don't know how that would have gone over.
I probably wouldn't have gone over well. So, but his Toyota Corolla Morizo edition. These things are little light. I mean, they're just bad to the bone. They 775 original miles. They got 300 horsepower with a turbo, inline 3 turbo, 6-speed manual, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Weighs like 3,100. It's a true pocket rocket. And so we'll have him on next week, and I promise I'll get him on and I'll make sure and remember to do what I'm supposed to do and call him and say, Scott. So sorry about that, Scott.
To paraphrase the commercial, that little old winemaker, Scott.
Yes, exactly. So, we were just at, they did the Spirit of Competition Award at the Simeon Museum this past weekend, or past Saturday for Lyn St James. And she's so wonderful. We had her on the show.
Yes,
she was wonderful to be on the show, and just a wonderful guest, and a great person, and a great ambassador for the sport, not only from the female perspective, which she's heavily involved in, but just in general. Yep. She's just a great person and had a great career and overcame so many things that, most drivers wouldn't have to even think about.
So knowledgeable and great sense of humor.
Yeah, and understands the whole process of how it works and all that. And just went in there and said, I'm going to do this. This is what I want to do. She went to the Daytona, 24-hour race at Daytona and watched them. And her boyfriend or husband at the time was like, let's go. And she's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. This is what I'm going to do. And he's like, okay. If you say
I
so,
guess
dear.
We're bunking in.
Yes, dear. He went actually back to the hotel or whatever, and she stayed and had stayed the whole night and watched the whole race. And started talking about watching the cars at night. She said what really emotionally got her was watching those brakes heat up when they're coming into to take the first turn. If they come off the banking, and they're hard on those brakes, and those things are, at night they're just glowing like nobody's business. And she said that really struck her emotionally, that how cool is this, and what a technological marvel these things are.
Right.
So anyway, when we return, we'll be joined with our weekly guest, Mr. Keith Martin, publisher of Sports Car Market Magazine. We'll be back with the Classic Auto Mall show in just a couple of minutes. We'll see you then.
The Classic Auto Mall has more than 1,000 vehicles for consignment in our huge 8-acre climate-controlled showroom. It's a real indoor mall. If you'd like to know all the advantages of buying and selling a car through consignment, the information is available on our website, or you can talk to a classic car specialist who can answer all your questions. It's easy, safe, convenient, and it doesn't matter where you are. We sell worldwide. See our huge selection of classic and collectible vehicles at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Joining us via Zoom as our weekly segment, Mr. Keith Martin, publisher of Sports Car Market Magazine. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing pretty darn good. It's a beautiful sunny day. Looks like it's a beautiful sunny day there as well, too. So nothing to complain about.
So I have one question to ask you. I've been thinking about it.
Uh-oh, here it comes.
What was the last car that came into your inventory that you wanted to buy so bad for yourself you could hardly stand it?
The Beck 550 Spider in that ice blue came in, and I wanted that car. I just told him, I said, don't even put it on the floor. Don't even bother taking pictures of it. Don't bother with anything, because that's going to be mine. And you know what?
Yeah, it didn't work out.
Well, it didn't work out very well at all, because I tried to get in and out of it, and I literally had to crawl out of it. It's so low to the ground. Bless you. It's so low to the ground that it was just, I'm just too old for that.
I just wrote about that one of the things that's really important people forget is can see if you can actually fit in the car.
Or does it fit in your garage? I mean, so those are, you think, well, of course it'll fit no, it doesn't always. And what the worst thing to have happen is somebody to buy a car sight unseen. We give them a video. They know it runs good. They know it's got this or that or whatever. And they get it and they go, oh my God, this doesn't work for me. I'm too big. I'm too small. I'm too whatever. And then we get people who call us and say, hey, would you measure that car for me? Because I'm not sure it will fit in my garage. And that's a great question. You should ask that, ad nauseum. I mean, it's just one of those things that people don't always think about. The obvious questions don't always come up.
Well, I've gotten several letters recently from people who are talking about the pedal boxes in their car and their new running shoes that have those big waffle extended edges to them, and that they can't, they press the brake and the gas at the same time.
Well, isn't that called heel and toe, or is that?
No, that's called flat and flat. I was driving a friend's Bugatti 35B down the coast one time, and the pedal box was so narrow, we stopped at a Walmart, and I bought a pair of shower slippers.
I love that. That's maybe the greatest thing I've heard all day, maybe all week.
And that's what it took.
Well, driving shoes became so popular in the late 80s and early 90s when people started coming out with these shoes that you wore specifically to drive a car. They gave better feel. They had protection on the back side of them, so you could, you wouldn't tear up the back of your shoe in the car and the way you moved it and all that. But, nowadays, some of these pedal boxes, like you said, are so tight. And if you ever drive a hot rod and the steering column is in between the brake and the gas, it's very awkward feeling. Even though you're supposed to, be using your left foot for the brake and not your right foot. I mean, your right foot instead of your left foot, and then you can't get to it. It's kind of weird. It's, and my kids, we always taught them initially, and you probably did too, about right foot braking and not braking with your left foot. You're not supposed to, because you're not supposed to be on the gas and the brake at the same time. Right. Unless you got a car like a minivan with a blown head gasket, and you don't have much of a choice, because if you don't keep on the gas, it's going to die in the middle of the Taneycomo Bridge going across in Branson, Missouri, and you're going to be stuck, and everybody's going to hate you for the next 2 hours.
So how far are you from Branson?
Now we are like curvature of the earth. We're like 18 hours from Branson now, and most of our kids are still there. And
I've never been there, but I've heard it's a real theatrical presentation.
Yeah, it started, really hit its stride in the mid to late 80s. And then, of course, in the 90s, all the country stars that couldn't, get any airplay on the radio could come there. Mel Tillis, who I work for, the Gatlin brothers, Johnny Cash, even Willie Nelson and all those guys. And people, Ray Stevens and all these country stars that really had nowhere else to go. They could play these little, dinky little places, but they built their own theaters, and people came to them instead of them going to each of the cities. And so it worked out really, really well. And Branson's a beautiful part of the world. Table Rock Lake and Lake Taneycomo are there, and it's just it's really a neat place. It doesn't have the luster that it used to have, but it still does pretty well. And of course, Johnny Morris, who owns Bass Pro Shops, has Big Cedar Lodge there, which is an amazing resort and the most fabulous golf courses you've ever seen, and the great driving roads. So a lot of tours go through there. The GT350 tour that Lee Cross puts on, they've gone through Branson, I think, a couple of times. So beautiful part of the world.
That tour is going on right now,
Is there? You know what? I didn't even think about that. It probably is. He does some great tours. He really does.
I've heard nothing but good. I know a lot of people who've gone on his tours many times.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. They came through Hershey, and he invited Kathy and I, my wife, to go to dinner with all the group of them, and just the nicest bunch of guys you ever met, and all, the GT3, nothing wrong with seeing 50 GT350s all together.
Right.
So
also, when I see the pictures of them, I think these are pretty easy cars to take care of.
Yeah. They're not.
I see a Ferrari and a Lamborghini and a Ciata and something. I mean, it's the chances are with your 271 horse stock car, you're going to get that 1,000 miles without a problem.
Yeah, and if you don't, there's probably the local AutoZone in Napa has a part for it. Yeah. More than likely, they don't have that for the Ciata. As a matter of fact, can you imagine walking into the Napa and the guy says, "What's the make? A Ciata?" He's like, "I don't even know what you're talking about."
Exactly. They just give you a part though and wish you well.
See you later. We always joke about the auto parts store is you always want to get the old guy, because if you get the young guy, he's going to look in the computer and he goes, "We don't have that." I mean, the old guy says, "Wait a second," and he goes back in the back and blows off some dusty part that's been back there since 1971, and that's the right part for your car. So.
Right.
So you're bringing your blog to life this week. The 3-pedal or PDK and question mark. You were speaking with a great car enthusiast and contributor to SCM, Miles Collier, about gearboxes, and you said to him the efficiency of a gearbox is less important than the degree of engagement. I like that.
Yeah, it's what I've always said is that the more that your car needs you, the more you will love your car.
Right.
With my Jaguar V12, there's a certain way to start the car.
Right.
You pull the choke out 3 clicks and you give it no gas at all.
Right.
If you do either one of those wrong, the car won't start.
Right. Isn't that amazing?
And that makes you love the car because you get in and it's like your golden retriever says, Daddy, did you bring me a treat? And, okay, the treat is 3 clicks out and no gas and boom, and you're in love all over again.
Yeah, it's nothing like seeing a guy get in like at an auction. I see this all the time in a Fuley Corvette and just pump the gas about 100 times. You think, oh no. You just feel so bad for them because they know it's going to end.
You want to go over to them and say, do you know there's no accelerator pump in this car, by the way, sir?
By the way, sir, without being rude, do you know?
So I'm trying to figure out that, I'm looking for cars that are a little bit easier for me to drive.
Sure.
I've been on a run the past couple of months talking about power steering, power brakes, air conditioning in a classic car. And that comes from, I went on that family tour with my son and daughter, and we have a 91 Alpha that we call Old Weezer.
Right.
Because it's slow and heavy, but it's got power, everything. And you go 75 miles an hour and you're in a sports car.
Yeah.
And
not bad.
As opposed to our 75 911, which is much more of a sport. I mean, it's a live wire car.
Right. And it's rougher riding probably. And
no power steering, no power brakes, no AC. But when you crack on the throttle, that thing just gets up and goes.
Oh, yeah.
But I have to ask myself on some of these 1,000 and 1,500 mile tours,
right?
Wouldn't it be nice to turn the AC to cold?
We are so spoiled, aren't we? We have really.
At our ages, we deserve to be spoiled.
Yeah, I mean, if you've made it this long, for heaven's sake, give us a little bit of AC.
Think of all the piles of crap that we've driven in the rain and the snow, overheating, brakes bleeding, going bad. I mean, we have done stuff that people wouldn't believe if we told them.
I drove a school bus that we bought for a long story, but we bought this school bus, me and my buddy, and it had no brakes. And I had to get it from the east side of town to the west side of town, and hills and dales and stoplights, and strategically judging when to run off and to get into a parking lot and swing back in around the traffic, and no brakes on a big old school bus, a big yellow school bus. It's like, what the heck was I thinking? Or the time we took our Audi 100 LS from Knoxville, Tennessee to Atlanta, and it wouldn't go over 5 miles an hour for the last hour of the last 100 miles of the trip. And we went anyway. And of course, it was just 5 miles an hour was its top speed. That's fun going down on the shoulder, especially when you go on the uphills when there's a bridge and no shoulder.
Yeah. Have you ever flat towed a car on the freeway?
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And here we are with this 30-foot strap between us at 70 miles an hour, right? And of course, the car that's being towed usually doesn't have any brakes.
It has no brakes, and probably the car that's towing it has one of those donut spares. Because
I just think about it. I was towing an Alpha to a dismantling yard one time, an Alpha Spider, and it had no doors, hood, or trunk. And we're on the freeway at 70 miles an hour, and I'm thinking, I'm just a whole book full of tickets waiting to be written.
Yeah, anybody sees you and you're in deep trouble. So, well, it's interesting, the evolution of the transmission from, as you pointed out, the 2-speed Power Glide Chevy, which is still in existence in drag racing. I think some drag racers still use a 2-speed Power Glide transmission, which is, you think of it, a 2-speed Power Glide is the low man on the totem pole, but not necessarily.
It's all you need. I mean, the thing that the reason Chevy could get away with a 2-speed automatic is they had enough power. It didn't matter.
It didn't really matter, And then you went to the 3-speed, and then you went to. I love when Volkswagen had that sport stick, and even Porsche had that. What was it called? That you have a Sportomatic, right?
Same thing. It's the Sport Shift and the Sportomatic are the same thing.
Same thing. So they're a
$4,000 markup on the Sportomatic.
Is there a top speed difference? I imagine.
Well, that's an interesting question. Gearbox wise, probably. I mean, who knows?
Sure.
But The second gear, it's a 3-speed automatic in mine, and the second gear is good from standstill to 75.
Right. That's quite a range, right?
Well, what it really means, my 18-year-old son loves driving the car around town in traffic because you never have to shift.
Exactly. And if you, I don't care how much you love manual transmissions, go drive in a traffic jam for half an hour. Your left leg feels like it's, you've been lifting mercury with it.
Yeah, and you have to be thoughtful. You don't want to let the clutch out too soon. Traffic's crowded. I'm looking for a Porsche 996, which had the last of the Tiptronic transmissions.
Right.
Those are not nearly as good as the PDKs, but every time I've had one of those PDKs, I spend the first day shifting up and down like John Juan Manuel Fangio.
Yeah, you're just constantly going.
Yeah, I just can't help myself.
No.
And then I just put it in drive and forget it.
Yeah, it's fun for, like you said, about a day, and then it's like, okay, this is that was fun. Now let's move on. I enjoyed driving a manual transmission in the perfect circumstances. It's like a convertible. It's got to be the perfect temperature outside, or I better have heater air running up my legs if it's not.
No, well, that's the same with old cars. The best place for a stick shift is a twisty mountain road.
Right. Exactly. Not the freeway at rush hour traffic. No question about it. So, but I get the engagement with a manual transmission, that you're more bonding with the car, as Miles said, and I get that. That makes a lot of sense. And engagement is important for paying attention too, because if you're engaged with your car, you're paying attention to more of the surroundings and things that are going on, because you have to be. Whereas in so many cars, I get in the car and I'm not sure where the automatic transmission thing is. Where is the shifter? Is it on the here, there, here?
Well,
where?
Can I tell you a secret that you can't repeat to anyone else?
Promise. Lips are sealed.
So I had a very good friend loan me his brand new Macan GTS for a 1,500 mile run. Okay. It was the best Hyundai I've ever been in my entire life.
Isn't that true?
It's fast.
Yeah.
It was comfortable, but it didn't require anything from you.
No engagement whatsoever.
It'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. Not like a 930 turbo where when that sucker hit and you were in the middle of an off-camber lefty and it was a little bit wet out, the Widowmaker is coming.
No, that's right. And you better know how to drive it.
You better damn sure know how to drive it. So anyway, insightful as always. We really appreciate you being on, and we'll be here next week with Keith Martin, Sports Car Market Magazine. We'll see you next time on the Classic Auto Mall Show. See you then.
Here's a special offer from Sports Car Market Magazine. Get a 6-month subscription for just $19.95 by going to sportscarmarket.com/test drive and the number 6. That's sportscarmarket.com/test drive 6. If you're a buyer, a seller, or just general classic car enthusiast, publisher Keith Martin says,
we've been around almost 40 years. It's the Wall Street Journal of the collector car world.
Activate your 6-month trial of Sports Car Market Magazine by going to sportscarmarket.com/test drive 6. Offers for a limited time. Be in the know with Sports Car Market. The Classic Auto Mall Show with their host, Stuart Howden, executive producer, Steve Sethier, produced and engineered by yours truly, J.R. Russ, video editor, Randy Lammy. Available on ClassicAutomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Music courtesy of the Pat Travers Band. For tour dates, contact, and stuff, visit PatTravers.com. Produced by Car Smarts Media. Copyright all rights reserved.